Tonight we chat with Port Pirie-based MP Jeff Brock off the back of last week's country cabinet. And winners are grinners. Solomon Town pulls off an upset against proprietary Risdon at the Spencer Golf Football League Grand Final.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Following on from last week's country cabinet, it's become glaringly obvious the Spencer Golf skill shortage goes hand in hand with our staffing issues. While touring the region, ministers made announcements about how the government plans to overcome these challenges, especially when it comes to small business.
Independent member for Stuart, Jeff Brock, is a firm believer that small businesses are the backbone of regional South Australia. The challenges they face are a major talking point at last week's country cabinet. MP Andrea Michaels learning from locals.
She's had the opportunity to actually go and have a roundtable conversation with various small businesses operating in the Upper Spencer Gulf in particular.
The Adelaide-based ministers experiencing regional realities firsthand and having one-on-one chats with locals.
To be able to organise, have a one point of contact for the small businesses. It's a long way to go at this particular point. The minister wants to do 20 of these roundtable conversations around the region.
With skills and staffing shortages being felt deeply across the regions, Education Minister Blair Boyer announcing there will soon be more opportunities to earn trade skills here in the Spencer Gulf.
In Port Augusta, we're announcing that one of the 5 technical colleges that we're building in the state for years 10 to 12 students will be built in Port Augusta. Young people in the area onto a vocational education and training kind of pathway where they can actually finish their SACE but also potentially move straight into a apprenticeship.
Premier Peter Malinauskas says employees everywhere are desperate for apprentices and is eager to see more vocational education being taught in schools.
Whether it's in Peterborough, Orroroo, Port Pirie, Port Augusta or wherever it may be, they're the catalyst, they're the backbones of our community. And
Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A man has been arrested for alleged drink driving and for stealing fuel at Ceduna over the weekend. Around 5:30 on Saturday afternoon, police received reports of a petrol drive-off at the Mackenzie Street service station. Just after 7 p.m, police located the suspect on the Eyre Highway, around 98 kilometres west of Ceduna. There, the driver was breath tested and allegedly produced a blood alcohol reading of 0.158. Further checks revealed the driver's licence was disqualified and the car he was driving only had one number plate. A 67-year-old man was refused bail before appearing in court. A major environment and recycling milestone was reached in New South Wales over the weekend. 8 billion bottles, cans and drink cartons were processed through the return and earn stations across the state, including one in Broken Hill.
An amazing achievement across the whole state. The Return and Earn initiative changing the way people think about recycling and turning trash into treasure.
Well done, New South Wales. You've hit a milestone, recycling more than 8 billion containers and bottles through the wonderful Return and Earn scheme. That's more than $800 million into the back pockets of citizens across New South Wales.
All containers, bottles and plastics that go through the stations are given a new life, repurposed and back on supermarket shelves within weeks.
And importantly, every bottle or container that's put through Return and Earn goes into the circular economy to create more packaging right across New South Wales.
This action by the state government has also done its bit for charity as well, with over $35 million in donations going to community groups since its inception back in 2017.
The funds raised from the Return and Earn are so crucial to the St Vincent de Paul Society because it allows us to provide assistance to people experiencing poverty and disadvantage in the community.
The charitable organisation has been a part of the scheme since 2018. In that time, 289 million containers and bottles have gone through 7 of their sites. A great outcome for not only the environment, but customers as well.
The St Vincent de Paul Society's involvement with Return and Earn scheme has been a great success. Currently, Vinnie's New South Wales has 7 sites across the state, and we employ about 30 people.
There are 620 return points across the state, with some places having self-service machines. For locals here in the far west, Channing's Broken Hill is your closest drop-off point. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Thousands of spectators were on the edge of their seats over the weekend as 3 of our local footy leagues concluded their seasons with grand final matches. For Port Lincoln, it was the best 2 teams of the year competing in the big dance. But as Henry Millick explains, there could only be one winner.
Well, it might be quiet now here at Centenary Oval, but over the weekend it saw thousands of people gather for what was an entertaining grand final. It was the minor premiers Marble Range who took on the Tasman Roosters, a team who had been hunting the unbeaten side all year. Conditions were wet and windy at Centenary as players lined up arm in arm for what was to be one of the matches of the season.
Advance Australia Fair.
It was an arm wrestle in the opening 5 minutes of the game, but Jordan Clements drew first blood for Marble Range, kicking the first goal of the final. But Tasman's quickly responded, with Brent Harris kicking 2 of his own. Tasman's had the early break of the game, going into half-time up by 9 points. In the second half, Marble Range needed to respond, and that they did. Rangers coach Boyd West kicking a crucial goal late in the third, giving them the lead in the fourth. It was anyone's game going into the final quarter, with just 3 points separating the 2 sides. It was wet weather footy, with both teams giving it their all, but Marble Range once again showed why they were the team to beat all year.
Bombs it in long. Who's there? It's all Marble Range. It's all Marble Range.
Tasmans weren't giving up without a fight, playing on at all costs and flying high.
Keeley couldn't get there. Thought he was pulled out of it. Umpire called play on. Looking to fly with Colin.
Rangers pulled away from the Roosters in the dying minutes, with the final score reading 55-40. The team are now back-to-back premiers and have gone undefeated for 2 years in a row. That concludes the Port Lincoln Football League for 2022. Stay tuned for a recap of the Spencer Golf Football League, and we'll be back tomorrow night for the Whyalla Grand Final coverage.
Still to come tonight, the Emmy winner and Grammy nominee touring the Spencer Golf. And Big Sky Stories hosts a day of fun, imagination and creativity for kids in Broken Hill. Welcome back. Emmy winner and 3-time Grammy nominee recording artist Toni Childs is bringing her retrospective tour to the regions. It's been over 30 years since her first album, but Childs is back and performing some new music as well as her old hits.
The Stop Your Fussin' singer is back and better than ever. The award-winning artist is bringing back the classics as well as serving up something new for her fans.
So I thought that it would be really a good idea to do a retrospective tour, and then I could play all the songs they want, right? In one tour, they'll get all the songs. So I kind of think of it like having dessert first.
The retrospective tour is a special 2-hour performance celebrating her life's musical works. Toni, who became an Australian citizen this year, wants to give back to all her fans living in the regions.
People who live in regional towns don't get the love. They don't get the big woo-ha. They don't get, the bells and whistles. It's important that we bring shows like what I'm creating out to regional towns.
The tour consists of 30 shows, one of which in Port Pirie on the 29th, then straight over to Port Lincoln's Nautilus Arts Centre on the 30th of September. The show's shaping up to have something for everyone.
Super vibrant. It's very fresh. It's, I've grown as an artist. I'm just born to love people up, and that's what I do at my shows. And so people leave really uplifted.
Tickets can now be booked online from the Toni Childs website or via the Nautilus Arts Centre. Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
There was plenty of fun and excitement at Big Sky Stories in Broken Hill over the weekend. From face painting to songwriting workshops, children were able to learn a thing or two at the community day.
Learning has never been so much fun. There was lots to see and do at the bookstore. with families coming and going throughout the day.
It's been really lovely. We've had a huge group come in for the songwriting workshop this morning and a big group sticking around to do some 3D chalk drawing. We had people on the community weaving project, lots of people getting their face painted, making lots of bookmarks.
David Smith took the children through a songwriting workshop. He was surprised at some of the skill and knowledge that the kids already had.
I was blown away. I really was. I mean, you could see me at the end of it. The tears that I shed then were real tears. I mean, I didn't know they were going to come.
While Mr. Smith has taught music before and written songs of his own, this was the first songwriting workshop he has taught.
I've never done a song workshop with kids. I've taught music at school, and I've taught music with adults. As I said, I sing with 3 groups. So music is my life now.
Staff say the adults got just as much out of the day as the kids did.
We have had a few people who've popped in who've never been in before and are excited to come back and signed up for workshops and signed up for things that are coming in the future, and are really excited to kind of support Big Sky Stories and see us keep going, which has been lovely.
To find out about the workshops on offer, check out Big Sky Stories' social media pages. Joshua Mercer, 7, Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Queen Elizabeth to be laid to rest following her extraordinary 70-year reign. And King Charles reflects on the past 10 days of mourning. Welcome back. Spencer Gulf residents will be among the billions of people across the globe tuning in to watch the funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Earlier today, the queue for the public to pay their respects at Westminster Hall closed, while around 2 million people have gathered in London for the final farewell.
Overnight, many Londoners have braved a cold night to be among the last to make it through, while others were left bitterly disappointed as they were turned away as the queue that stretched kilometres and lasted days was officially shut down. At 6:30 local time, this area around Westminster will be closed to the public, ready for the first of 2 processions today. The first will be the shortest, just 8 minutes from Westminster Hall to Westminster Abbey. The Queen's coffin will be followed by members of the royal family, including the late additions of Prince George and Princess Charlotte. The funeral will then take place from 11 a.m. London time or 8 p.m. on Australia's east coast. It will run for an hour, ending in another national moment of silence. There will then be a much longer procession with the Queen's coffin taken past London landmarks one last time before it's driven about an hour west to the royal city of Windsor for a private burial this afternoon.
Meantime, world leaders, including Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, have met the new king ahead of the Queen's funeral, while members of the royal family have been reflecting on Her Majesty's legacy, offering personal tributes.
At Buckingham Palace, guests arrived for the King's reception. More than 500 dignitaries attending one of the biggest diplomatic occasions in a century. Among the guests, US President Joe Biden and the new UK Prime Minister Liz Truss. For Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, his second visit to Buckingham Palace in as many days, following his brief meeting with Australia's new head of state. Your Majesty. The PM earlier meeting the Australian guests attending the Queen's funeral. The new Princess of Wales received Ukraine's First Lady ahead of the reception. For the royal family, it's been time to reflect. The Queen Consort Camilla in a televised tribute praising Her Majesty for carving her own role.
I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there. It must have been so difficult for her being a solitary woman. There weren't women prime ministers or women presidents. She was the only one, so I think she carved her own role.
Prince Andrew releasing a statement paying tribute to his mother. Mummy, your love for a son, your compassion, your care, your confidence, I will treasure forever. For the nation, a moment to take stock. Big Ben striking to mark a minute's silence in honour of the late Queen. In the coming days, the final goodbye, as Queen Elizabeth is honoured and laid to rest. World leaders, foreign royal families and those who knew her personally will be among the thousands congregating at Westminster Abbey.
Well, it will be a solemn occasion tomorrow. Her Majesty's passing is felt by all Australians, and tomorrow will be a very significant day.
Millions are expected to converge on London, while billions tune in around the world to farewell Britain's longest-serving monarch and mark the end of the Elizabethan era.
King Charles has released a message of thanks ahead of his mother's funeral. He says, "Over the last 10 days, my wife and I have been so deeply touched by the many messages of condolence and support we've received from the country and across the world. In London, Edinburgh, Hillsborough and Cardiff, we were moved beyond measure by everyone who took the trouble to come and pay their respects to the lifelong service of my dear mother, the late Queen. As we all prepare to say our last farewell, I wanted to simply take this opportunity to say thank you to all those countless people who have been such a support and comfort to my family and myself in this time of grief." Stay with us. After the break, we return to our regular scheduled content, including a recap of the extremely close SGFL Grand Final. And we'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. Rivals Proprietary Risdon and Solomon Town met once again on Saturday at the Big Dance. The winners claiming bragging rights for another year. And as was expected, it was a close one.
It was a case of deja vu for spectators, as this time last year, Sollies and Lions also battled it out. Supporters saying if this grand final was anything like the last, it will be a day to remember. And they got what they asked for. Cars started securing their spots for the grand final as early as Wednesday. Clearly an event the whole community looks forward to.
Here we go.
The first quarter was the closest, with the Lions scoring 16 points and Sollies tallying 15. Aidan Jacobs from the Lions scored the first goal of the day. After the second quarter, it was still anyone's game, with Sollies scoring 3 goals and Lions scoring 2. The Sollies were only slightly ahead with 6 points separating the teams. Sollies scored the first goal of the third, which gave them the confidence and momentum to keep going, with the Cats scoring 5 goals in the third quarter and only letting the Lions score once. At the end of the quarter, there was the biggest point margin of the match. It was going to be hard for the Lions to catch up in the last quarter, and they nearly did it, scoring 4 goals to 1 in the final minutes. But in the end, the underdogs of the match, Sollies, took the flag, being the best team on the day, and it was well deserved after missing out in previous years. The final scores were 64 points to 79, both teams demonstrating some great skills. Standout players from the beginning were Aidan Jacobs, Luke Patterson, Andrew Wright, Dylan Aldridge and Jeremy Cameron Clay from the Lions. And Riley Hayes, Jonathan Hayes, Corey Davey, Mason Munzberg and Lawson Munzberg from the Cats. That's it until next season.
Make sure to tune in for our recap of the Wyler Grand Final tomorrow, and congratulations to everyone involved. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, wet, warm and windy across the region tomorrow.
Indeed, Maddie, as you said, the wind will start to pick up tomorrow with hot and humid conditions across most of our region. I'll have more of that in just a moment. For now, let's take a look at some of today's temperatures. Clear in Port Pirie, Kadina and Cleve today, 22 degrees. Elsewhere, 25 degrees in Port Augusta and Woodnard today, 29 in Coober Pedy, 21 the top in Broken Hill. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. East to north northeasterly winds 15 to 30 knots, seas between 1 and 2 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre, increasing up to 1.5 metres. Showers developing around Port Lincoln, 19 degrees there tomorrow. Similar conditions in Cleve, heading for a top of 21. Showers and 24 in Woodner. Warm in Whyalla, set to reach a high of 26 on Tuesday. Possible storm in Port Augusta, heading for a top of 28. Kadina rainy and 22. Possible storm in Port Pirie tomorrow, set to reach a high of 25 degrees there. Similar conditions in Clare, 19. And Broken Hill is also bracing for a possible storm, 26 degrees. Taking a look further through the week now, wet in Whyalla and Woodner on Wednesday, 19 and 20 degrees there. 21 in Port Augusta, very high chance of showers in Broken Hill on Wednesday, most likely in the morning, 18 degrees. Showers are looking to have cleared up by Thursday. Partly cloudy, 24 in Port Augusta and Woodner, 21 in Whyalla and Port Pirie, 19 in Broken Hill. And on Friday, the rain returns to ring out the working week, temperatures between 16 and 23 degrees. That's all in weather from me for tonight. Maddie, it's back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Monday. I'm Madeline Kerr. From all of us here, thanks for joining us. I'll have updates a little later, but until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.